as we await the start of fueling on this Falcon 9 rocket. Let's go ahead and talk about the flight path of this Falcon 9 rocket. Let's talk a little trajectory, shall we? As is the case with all of the missions heading to the sixth shell of the Starlink constellation, this Falcon 9 is going to be flying in a southeasterly trajectory. Taking a look from Google Earth, lifting off from Space Launch Complex 40, otherwise known as Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Falcon 9 is going to be heading again southeast, a little bit to the east of the Bahamas. Following stage separation, the Falcon 9 first stage booster supporting this mission, tail number B1078 in the SpaceX fleet, will be landing on one of SpaceX's 3 drone ships. It's got 2 based here in Florida, and the one on deck this morning is a Shortfall of Gravitas. 2 Fahrenheit will be jettisoned just a little bit downrange of the map as well. SpaceX will use one of its recovery vessels to scoop those up, bring them back into Port Canaveral, where they will be refurbished and prepared for future flights. Taking a look at the recovery process and action. This is a still of the payload fairings gliding down into the support of parachutes. SpaceX saves about $6 million per recovery effort, so it's an important part of their business model, as is the case with the boosters, to make sure that as much as possible they are able to recover those payload fairings and turn them around for future flights. Here's what that process looks like as far as bringing them on board one of the recovery vessels. This image taken by SpaceX last year. SpaceX is in the process of certifying both its boosters and its payload fairings for up to 40 flights apiece. And while they don't often talk about specifics when it comes to the payload fairings and what their life status currently is, we know that their flight leader, as far as the booster front goes, has flown 21 times. That distinction belonging to B1062 in the SpaceX fleet. B1061 has 20 flights under its belt. Then the next oldest booster would be B1063, which has 18. Or excuse me, that'd be B1067, which is 19, followed by B1063 with 18. Now, T minus 37 minutes, 21 seconds and counting. Just a couple minutes away from the start of fueling, assuming SpaceX is prepared to do so. Take a look at the live chat here. I want to thank the more than 3,200 of you who are joining with us live this morning. Appreciate your patience. If you haven't already, be sure to click the like button to allow us more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage. Now T minus 34 minutes, 53 seconds and counting. At this point, SpaceX is continuing to target 1024 for a launch of its Falcon 9 rocket. Fueling will be getting underway. You can see that helicopter going by in the background. That is the Coast Guard doing some regular patrol pre-launch, making sure there are no boats in the keep out area as we get ready for the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket coming up in 34 minutes and 20 seconds. And we do have word from SpaceX that propellant load is in fact underway, which is excellent. I mean, SpaceX is prepared to launch coming up in 34 minutes, or excuse me, 33 minutes, 56 seconds, and counting. As fueling gets underway here on the Falcon 9 rocket, again, that process starts with loading RP1 or rocket grade kerosene on board the Falcon 9's first and second stages and liquid oxygen on board the first stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. Coming up in just a couple of minutes at the T minus 30-minute mark, SpaceX will also load cryogenic helium on board the pressure vessels on the Falcon 9 first stage. The helium is important because it's used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. That same process will begin on the Falcon 9's second stage at about T minus 25 minutes. SpaceX has support for this mission. It's running its countdown from its Hangar X site here at KSC, the building where they refurbish Falcon 9 boosters and prepare them for future flights, as is the case with the mission getting ready to launch in just 31 and a half minutes. They also have support from their headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Continuing to track that liftoff time at 10:24 a.m. Eastern, 14:24 UTC. On board, of course, 23 Starlink satellites heading up to low Earth orbit. Taking a look at the coverage map for SpaceX and their Starlink constellation. Here's a view of what things look like right now. The light blue areas are where coverage is currently available. The slightly darker blue shades are where coverage will be coming soon or is planned to begin at a set time and date. And the grays are where coverage is not available. As mentioned, this will be the 39th dedicated Starlink launch in 2024 on board 23 Starlink V2 mini satellites. That image in the center of your screen is what those look like stacked in their launch configuration. Each of them clocks in at about 1,760 pounds or about 800 kilograms. With their solar panels unfurled, they have a wingspan of about 100 feet or 30 meters. They use argon hull thrusters for in-orbit maneuvers. They were built in Redmond, Washington, which is near to Seattle. Once they are deployed, they'll be sent on their way at about 200 miles or 320 kilometers in altitude. Will orbit in a 43-degree inclination. SpaceX noted the weather is currently about 90% favorable conditions for a liftoff. However, we are continuing to keep our eye out on the weather as some anvil clouds that are tracking towards the pad continue to make their way across the Florida Peninsula and headed over towards our area. So likely not going to deter, but you can see that cloud cruising on, making a beeline for Florida Space Coast. So we will continue to keep our eye on that and provide you